Before anything happens, I want to preference something quickly. You can disagree with me as much as you like. That is what makes us unique as humans, is that we can agree or disagree with anything we want. I'm slightly out of breath because I just had to run in here because I'm recording this in a garage because there's less reverberation and it's raining outside right now. Another thing I'm going to clarify. I know my friend Ramchu made a video a few days before me recording this about someone who was debating about whether abortion should be illegal or not with him. And I'm going to clarify something. I'm going to take credit because I've had this idea sitting in my head for months. Like, I think I was thinking about doing it like in the beginning of 2025, and I just didn't talk about it because I knew it would divide people and I don't want to get cheap heat or attention. Which he clearly doesn't care much about that, but that's irrelevant. Anyway, I'm talking about it now, and again, I'm going to once again preface that I can't speak for some reason. I'm going to preface that if you think it should be legal, that's fine. If you think it should be illegal, that's fine. And if you disagree with me, you can debate calmly in the topics below, or in the comments below on YouTube, because this is going on multiple platforms. So if you're listening to this on YouTube and you wish to debate me, go right ahead. As long as you are calm, I will calmly debate with you. And we can bring up points and actual evidence and everything, and we can have a calm discussion. If anyone is mean in the comments, I'm either going to just ignore you or remove your comment completely, because that's not what I want to push, and that's not what I want to allow people to do. This is going to be a friendly environment, and it's going to stay that way. Now, to the actual discussion, whatever. Should abortion be legal? For those of you who are unaware, I'm not sure when the actual timeline went down, but our now current president, Donald J. Trump, who I'm not a fan of whatsoever, but again, that's a completely different discussion for another day, has been trying to make abortion illegal in pretty much the entirety of the US. I do not agree with this, and just to bluntly come out and say it, I think abortion should be legal for a few reasons. Before I talk about the reasons why I think it should be allowed, I am going to point out one or two quick points for the other side as to why I think that it's perfectly acceptable to think that it shouldn't be legal. Because I'm sure you've been either riding or driving down the road and seen the signs that say, like, you know, your baby has a heartbeat this many weeks after conception or whatever. And it does suck. You are, even if it's early, you're essentially ending the life of a kid. And it does suck. Just like, I know there are other people out there who say we shouldn't eat meat because you're murdering an animal that has thoughts and feelings. And stick around, because eventually I'm going to make a podcast episode on that as well. But the whole argument of that you're killing a kid and that it should be able to live to see the world and hopefully succeed is a good one. I do agree with that. I think that everyone should be able to succeed, and babies should be able to be born and grow up to succeed. Now I'm going to get to my points where I think it should be legal. And the biggest one, I guarantee you have heard somewhere, but I'm going to make this point again. Rape victims. I guarantee you Spotify and a few other platforms are probably not going to be happy that I'm saying this outright, but I'm just going to be blunt. Women are raped a lot. It is a sad thing that happens, and I am not saying it's okay whatsoever. If there is any women out there, if there's any women listening to this period, I'm genuinely shocked because most women hate me. But if there are any women who are listening to this who have been raped before, I genuinely do fucking apologize. I absolutely hate that that happened to you, and that no one should have to go through that. I think any man who is willing to go out and forcefully rape any woman, regardless of the situation or their mental state, is fucked. I hate that. And I don't condone it whatsoever. Period. End of discussion. That's not the point I'm making, though. The point I'm making is that it happens. Say there's a woman just walking down the street, and she goes into like some alley to try and cut through and get back to home quicker. Some guy could come out of nowhere with his hood up and a mask on, force her against the wall, and have his way with her. And if he decides, screw it, I'm raping this woman, what do you think he's gonna want to pull out? No, he's not going to care. He's going to pull out, he's going to rape her, probably finishing her, and then run away. And usually probably mug her, but again, that's not the point I'm making. So now this woman forcefully has had, you know what, put inside of her. I'm trying to be somewhat vague so that I can actually publish this episode, but now she's stuck with that. And I guarantee you she would not just want to randomly have a kid put inside of her, so she thinks, screw it, I'm going to go have it aborted. But now that Donald Trump is trying to make it so abortion is not legal, she can't. So she was just living her life calmly, and out of nowhere, boom, she has a baby with a random person that she now has to keep. She can't get rid of it. Literally, at the time of recording, I don't know what states it's still legal and illegal in. I know it's not illegal in every state, but a lot of them it is illegal. Imagine, okay, this is the equivalent. Imagine you're a guy and you're just walking down the street and you don't want any pets. You've decided, I want to live a pet-free life. It's just too much responsibility and I don't want the pet to have a bad life. Someone randomly comes up to you, punches you in the face, knocks you to the ground and says, hey, here's 10 kittens. And according to the law, you cannot get rid of them. You can't kill them. You can't put them up for adoption in any way. You have to keep them till they die. You would be pissed. You'd be like, well, God damn it, I now have these 10 kittens who I have to take care of legally because I can't legally get rid of them. And my life was perfect 10 seconds ago. It's the same way for abortion, except probably a little bit extremer because... more extreme, I should correct myself. When you have the baby, you have to go through the morning sickness for the first trimester where you're puking constantly. You have the extreme pain, you have the limited mobility, you have to eat a lot because you have to provide for yourself and the baby. And giving birth 9 times out of 10 is extremely painful, and it can kill you. So there's a chance that you will die giving birth to the baby, or both of you will perish. And when you're in your first trimester, there's a high chance you'll have a miscarriage. And all of that could have been avoided if they would have just said, screw it, I'm not trying to have me and this baby both suffer. Let's humanely kill it while it doesn't have enough consciousness to realize that it's alive. And we move on and prevent it from ever happening again. Because, like with murders, the FBI has stated that in a lot of situations, there's a very good chance that if you're raped by someone, unless you get lucky and have a witness, you'll never know who did it. And that person, most likely, if they're deranged enough to do it once, they're going to do it again. And if they keep failing to catch that person, it's going to be a repeated affair of just him raping women, putting kids in them, that they now cannot get rid of because of your stupid laws. And speaking of which, if we're trying to have the kid not suffer, there's another example that I was going to bring up that Trevin Pro actually reminded me about, which is in a lot of situations, the kids, if they're adoptees or put into the foster care system, are treated like shit. Because CPS and a bunch of like faith churches where they try and raise young kids who don't have parents, they've admitted multiple times that they're basically treated like prisoners because the sheer volume of them is way too much for people to control. So a lot of the time, they're essentially just left on their own anyway and treated like fucking prisoners. Which should not be how it goes. If you bring a kid into the world, you should want it to live a happy and healthy life. That should be like the gold standard for what you want to do with a kid who is born. You want them to grow up and succeed in a happy and healthy way, and you don't want them to have to suffer and be in immense pain. That is the ultimate goal. The way I always put it is when you're a parent, your ultimate goal is you want the kid's life to be easier and more successful than yours. Like, for example, I could sit here and say I personally went through hell in my childhood a lot of the time, and I currently still struggle with very heavy depression and a lot of other legitimate mental illnesses, along with a lot of physical illnesses because I'm breaking my back constantly just to try and live. And if I ever have a kid, I want their life to be super easy so that they don't have to go through the same hellish torture and agony that I went through and am still going through. And a lot of these, especially rape victims' babies, are not going through that because I didn't even bring up the fact that it could be a teenager that was raped who's not even ready to have a kid. So when they're born, because they have to keep it, they think, screw it, I don't want this kid. So they give it away. And now it's in the foster care system where there's a very high chance it's either going to be treated terribly or pawned off to parents who don't even care. And all of it could have been avoided simply if you would have just allowed abortion. The other big thing I was going to bring up is just general teenage idiocy. I don't know how much I can talk about it because I'm, at the time of recording this, I'm going to be 21 in like maybe a month or two. But point being is, teenagers are idiots. They're going to go have unprotected sex with Lord knows how many people. I could go into an entire another podcast rant about how a lot of teenage girls nowadays are whores, but I'm not going to go into that right now. That's completely different for a different time. But because of that, they're going to go have unprotected sex, and a lot of guys don't know how to pull out. So they're just going to say, fuck it, I'm not going to bother pulling out or wearing a condom, and she's going to lie and say, oh, I'm on birth control when she's not, and then boom, kid. Because fun fact, there is no birth control method that is 100% effective except just not having unprotected sex. The most effective method is just either to not have unprotected sex or just pull out. But a lot of guys don't know how to do that, so then they just say screw it. And then it leads to a kid, and granted, I understand that's not the fault of the abortion clinics or anybody else, it's the fault of the teenagers, but at the same time, it happens. You can put out 1 million PSAs that are viewed by every population of every country on the friggin' planet, and teenagers are still going to be idiots. That's just how it goes. And because of your abortion laws, now you're making it so much worse for them, because now, if the girl decides, screw it, I'm going to go out and party and have sex, boom, she's all of a sudden pregnant, and no abortion clinic will legally let her get rid of it because there are no abortion clinics. So guess what? Now that 16, 17-year-old teenager who made a dumb decision now has to deal with that for the next 18 years of her life. And usually it gets pawned off on the parents of the teenager because they're the older ones who actually have the experience. Excuse me. And it's just a whole shit show in general. Because if you're smart and you want to have a kid, then, like, do that. You know what to do, you know how to take care of it, and if you're financially stable enough to take care of it, have the kid, go for it. I think certain people shouldn't be parents, but again, that's completely digressing from the overall point I'm trying to make here, which is that if you're so gung-ho about making abortion illegal, I think the most you could do would be there are certain situations where, depending on the context, you should not be allowed to abort it. But completely barring abortion as a whole, I believe, is 100% the wrong choice. Again, I will reiterate like I did at the beginning, if you believe that abortion should be illegal, then you are glad to calmly and civilly debate it in the comments if you're on YouTube. I'm fully fine with that. But I think that it should not, or I think it should be legal, because no matter what generation you're in, teenagers and a lot of people in general are idiots and have no common sense whatsoever. So I don't think that part's ever going to change, and because of that, I would much rather have the kid safely and humanely just not ever be living than have to have it brought into a world where nobody wanted it to begin with and have to go through 1 million friggin' torturous setbacks, one after the other, after the other, after the other. That's just my stance on it.